Hey guys, we're going to go ahead and kick our meal prep off with a Mississippi mud roast. What you're going to need is a chuck roast. I have a Black Angus chuck roast, 1 stick of butter, dry brown gravy seasoning packet, dry ranch dressing seasoning packet, and pepperoncinos. Here we have our Black Angus chuck roast. We're going to go ahead and get it into a large crock pot. Here we have our jar of whole pepperoncinos. Generally, I would use the pepperoncino slices, but this is all that Aldi had when I had picked this up. There aren't a whole lot of carbs in here, really. If you measure it out in the whole roast, there are 7 carbs in the whole jar, and I only use about half of the jar. I pour about half of the liquid that they're in with my roast. And then I will just take and use about half of the jar of the pepperoncinos and go ahead and put that in with the roast on it and all around it. Next step is going to be putting our packet of dry ranch dressing in with our roast. And then we're going to go ahead and add our packet of dry brown gravy to the roast as well. And again, there are some carbs in these dry seasoning packets, but really when you take into account the size of roast that it's going in with, it doesn't amount to that many carbs. And now we're going to go ahead and add our full stick of butter. I usually just set it on top of the roast as a full stick, although you can go ahead and cut yours up into chunks, and that would be just fine as well. And go ahead and put the lid on top of that, and we will make sure that this is turned on to low. And we will go ahead and cook this anywhere from 8 to 9 hours, and it will be so tender and good and yummy when it is done. While I have my roast going, I'm going to go ahead and get some eggs into a pan. I have a dozen eggs here. I'm going to bring these to a boil and let them boil for just a minute or so. Turn off the heat and let it go for 15 or 20 minutes sitting in the water, and they turn out perfect every time. We're going to make some side dishes to go with our roast. I have 2 packets of frozen spinach, and there's about 3.5 net carbs per package. And I got those microwaved up. And once out of the microwave, I put onto some paper towels and I go ahead and soak up any additional liquids that are in the spinach so that it is nice and dry when we use it. And here are the ingredients I'm going to put into it: some cream cheese, garlic, onion powder, sour cream, Parmesan cheese, salt, and pepper. Go ahead and get your spinach into a pan and let it cook for a little bit, just to make sure that you cook off any additional liquids that are in with the spinach. Add to your spinach 2 ounces of cream cheese and let that go ahead and soften up in the pan along with the spinach. I put a little bit of garlic paste into mine, probably a tablespoon, and forgive me because I am really bad about measuring things. I really like to eyeball things and just kind of do it to taste. So I'm giving you a rough idea of what I add along with this. Our spinach is looking nice and creamy. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of sour cream to our mixture as well. I would say half of a cup. And that should make it just a little bit more creamy. Off camera, I went ahead and added some cracked pepper and cracked Himalayan salt, as well as about a half of a cup of Parmesan cheese. And now we're going to go ahead and add a small handful of real bacon pieces to our spinach mixture and go ahead and get that well incorporated. Here's our finished cream spinach dish, and I'm going to go ahead and get that measured out into some bowls here for meal prep. Ended up getting several half-cup servings of the spinach mixture. So next, as a side dish, we're going to make some Brussels sprouts. One bag of these are ones that you do on the stove. These ones here in my hand are ones that you can do in the microwave. Looks like there are 4 carbohydrates. You deduct the fiber, so 1 carbohydrate per serving, and there are 4 servings per bag. So that is 4 carbs for the whole bag. And let's look at this one here. Looks like there are 9 carbohydrates, deduct the fiber, comes out to 6 carbohydrates per serving, which is a lot more carbs than the other bag. So we're going to go ahead with the microwavable one. I'm going to go ahead and add some bacon grease to our pan and get our Brussels sprouts started. And we will go ahead and add our bag of microwaved Brussels sprouts to our pan and let that get started. For a little bit in our pan, I added some salt and pepper off camera. Again, the cracked pepper and the Himalayan salt. Let that go for a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and add some heavy whipping cream, maybe like 1/4 of a cup, to our pan, and just let that simmer with the Brussels sprouts for a little bit. To our pan, I'm going to go ahead and add some Parmesan cheese. Again, I eyeball it, just several sprinkles over top until it looks pretty good. And it'll go ahead and soak up some of that heavy whipping cream that is in the pan. And I'm telling you what, if you have never made Brussels sprouts this way, it is awesome. If you don't like Brussels sprouts, I can guarantee if you make them this way, you're going to love them. Also, sometimes I'll go ahead and add some crumbled bacon to these as well. Oh my gosh, so good. You'll never want to make them another way again, I promise you. So that is our finished Brussels sprouts. I ended up getting about 3 half-cup servings, maybe not quite half-cup servings of the Brussels sprouts for meal prep. Next side that we're going to meal prep is a baked cauliflower rice dish. And I have 2 tablespoons of butter melting down in my pan. There is riced cauliflower, 2 bags of it, some sharp cheddar cheese, Philadelphia cream cheese, sour cream, real bacon pieces, garlic, salt and pepper. To our melted butter, we're going to go ahead and add our steam in a bag cauliflower rice. And there are 2 bags we're adding. There are 4 servings per bag. And it comes out to 2 net carbs per serving, so that equals 8 net carbs per bag. In the grand scheme of things, honestly, if your portion size is a normal portion size, the carb amount is still going to be relatively low. So now that we have our cauliflower rice a little bit dried out in the pan, we're going to go ahead and add to that about 6 ounces of cream cheese. And we will go ahead and let that cook down in the pan on medium heat until everything is nice and incorporated into the cauliflower rice. Off camera, I did go ahead and add our salt and pepper, and I'm going to add some garlic paste to our cauliflower rice as well. Get that mixed around. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and add a little sour cream, just what I have left in this container. I think when I scooped it all out, it was right around 1/2 cup of sour cream. I would suggest if you have a little bit more, maybe even do 3/4 cup of sour cream. This was a little bit more dry, but certainly it was still wonderful. But I think if I had added just a little bit more sour cream, it would have even been just a little bit more creamy and better. And then once we get that mixed up, we're going to put about half of our shredded sharp cheddar cheese into our pan. We will reserve the rest to put on top of our cauliflower rice before we bake it in the oven. Go ahead and get your cheese mixed in with the cauliflower rice until it's nice and melty. And then lastly, we're going to go ahead and add 2 small handfuls of the bacon pieces. And we're just going to get that stirred around into our riced cauliflower. And yeah, that's what we do with that. And we're going to go ahead and add that to a pan and get it into the oven. Here we have a buttered glass baking dish we're going to put our cauliflower rice into, and we're going to go ahead and put the other half of our sharp cheddar cheese onto the top of this. We will put it into the oven at 350 degrees until the top of it is nice and melty. Pulled our dish out of the oven and the cheese is nice and melted on top. We have our Mississippi mud roast. It cooked on low for 9 hours. It is juicy and tender and falling apart and amazing. We will go ahead and use that for our meal prep as well. So next I decided that I would like a little bit of a sweet treat for the week. So I made this keto-friendly chocolate mousse-like concoction, and it was honestly wonderful. I went ahead and added about a cup and a half of plain whipping cream to my stand mixer, got that mixed up for a while until it became a whipped topping consistency. I then took that out and added my whole block of softened cream cheese, mixed that up, and I added about a tablespoon of a vanilla bean paste, as well as several drops of my vanilla sweetened Splenda, and got that mixed all up. And then I finally added about 1/4 of a cup, maybe a little bit more, of my unsweetened cocoa powder. And then I added the whipped topping back into it and just got it all well incorporated. And it turned out so wonderful. I did go ahead and top it with some Ready Whip, which is very low in carb as well. And here I'm just showing you kind of what the consistency was. So good, highly recommend. I almost wonder if you could freeze it and make it like an ice cream. I'll have to give that a try, but it was so good. Finally, I ended up portioning out my roast beef into my meal prep bowls. I added about 4 ounces of the roast to each bowl. I know on camera it looks like it's more, but it ended up being about 4 ounces. And I have my hard-boiled eggs for the week for snacks, my cauliflower rice to use towards dinners, maybe, a little bit of cauliflower rice and some eggs to go along with it or something simple. So yeah, that's my meal prep, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.